Okay, this chicken begins pretty much the same way as the chicken cacciatore that's on the website. Some coarse black pepper, coarse salt, more than you think you need, some flour, not too much so the chicken doesn't become gummy. And you kind of massage this all together, get the chicken coated. And okay, the pan's good and hot. And this time we're going to use vegetable oil, not olive oil for this. You don't want that taste in this recipe. And we're going to put in, make 3 pieces at first. Do them in 2 batches. Give them plenty of room alongside the pan. And it's going to take a few minutes because we want them nice and golden. You always want to make sure the chicken's not sticking to the pan before you try to move it so you don't mess up the skin. We've got some nice color on the first part, the first few pieces. You can kind of line these up along the edges of the pan. Start browning the edges of them, which also clears space to put the next batch of chicken in. Where the pan's not overly crowded. Blending cup, we're going to put the onions. Garlic, all coarsely chopped. Just chop it up a little bit so that the mixer has a chance to work with it. Also the red bell pepper. And for the onion, I use part of the onion, I use shallot. It's something you don't have to do, but it's a little refinement that's nice. So we're going to get this started to grind. And it's going to take a minute to get it going. And this is what we want to end up with, something that's a total puree. There's a couple little flecks of solids in there, that's okay. This is very different from how we cook vegetables for most things, because we usually want a solid surface area on the sides so that they have something to caramelize. We're not going for that effect in this. This is a different sort of recipe. And as you turn them over, you see, like this, it's not evenly browned, so this part that's the light part, you're going to move to the center of the pan, because this is where it's the hottest. This needs the most cooking, goes here. And don't forget to turn these pieces that are leaning up against the side over, so you get them nice and brown all the way. And eventually you end up with some all nicely golden. You transfer these over to a platter and move on to the next part. And here we have our brown chicken waiting to go back into the sauce. And we're going to cook this puree of onions and garlic and red bell pepper now in the fat from the chicken. And we're going to cook this for 2 or 3 minutes now. We're not looking to really brown the hell out of it. We just want to get rid of a lot of the extra moisture. This is where we make up our bouquet garni. Now you can tie these up with cheesecloth, or you can get these little bags that are already nicely made for you. Into this we're going to put 1 star anise, a few cloves, that's the spice, not cloves of garlic we're talking about, half a dozen. We're going to put in a couple of bay leaves, which is a good time to get rid of your bay leaves that are kind of broken up, because it won't make any difference here. We're going to put a teaspoon of mixed peppercorns. This contains white, black, green, and pink. You can use just plain white peppercorns if you want to. And a teaspoon of thyme. And that's it. Now we're just going to tie this up, and that's going to become the spice satchel that goes in it. This is much drier than it was. I don't have clouds of steam coming off it. A little bit, but not like it was. You can see visibly that it's much drier than it was. Now we're going to add a tomato sauce to this. 200 grams. And we're going to cook this down for also about the same. We want to get rid of a lot of the extra moisture, but we don't want to dry it out completely. We just get rid of some of that water. You might as well do it now because it'll concentrate the flavors. Then when the chicken goes in there, the chicken will get more flavor in it. If it's just watery, the chicken will taste watery. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes now. Now we're going to add that brown sugar to it. This is going to react with it and draw out more moisture and also increase the temperature of the pan because that sugar is going to start to turn to caramel. And we're continuing to cook it. Now, why do we do this now? Because right now it can get really, really hot. Once I add the next step, which is the vinegar to it, that's it. It's not going to caramelize anymore. It's not going to get deep and brown because the vinegar is going to lower the temperature down to the boiling point of water, basically. You have to think every step of the way. Why am I doing what I'm doing in the recipe right now? Why not do it earlier? Why not do it later? Why am I doing exactly what I'm doing? There's a reason for everything. Okay, we have a pretty solid mass here at this point. It's kind of like making an Indian curry. Now, we're going to add the apple cider vinegar now. We're going to let it dissolve all of this in there, and we're going to let it cook for just a few seconds, just to get rid of the harshness of that vinegar, the strong vinegar taste, just for a minute or two. Now we're going to start putting the chicken back in. Along with the juices from whatever ran off of it. And that bag of seasonings is going to go right down in the middle here. Now I've turned the temperature way, way down here so that nothing burns. Very important, of course. And this doesn't seem like it's very much liquid for all this chicken, but more liquid will come out of the chicken. Okay, temperature's down, lid's going to go in. Notice that was skin side up to the chicken. We're going to turn the heat down and we're going to let this cook for 20 minutes before we continue. Okay, it's the end of the first 20 minutes. We're going to release the lid, make sure we keep as much of the liquid in there as we can because it's pretty dry as it is. We're going to turn over each of the pieces of chicken. Now, we're going to add 1 tablespoon, that's a real tablespoon, ½ ounce of liquid smoke right into the middle there. And the lid goes back on, and it gets another 20 minutes of simmering. Okay, then the other 20 minutes, we're going to get this off. As you can see, there's a lot more moisture than there was before. This is looking pretty good. That little black part on there, that's really what you want. That came from it resting against the bottom of the pan during that last part of the braise with hardly any liquid in it. And that's part of what's going to simulate that authentic barbecue flavor. If you don't do that, it won't be authentic tasting. So now we're going to transfer this to a platter and get ready to make our sauce. Okay, get the chicken out of there. We're going to stir this around, deglaze the bottom of the pan where that chicken was stuck to it, caramelized. We're going to deglaze that right into the sauce. The heat is still quite low, but the pan's hot because the cover's been on it during this time. So this is looking pretty good. Now we're going to add about a tablespoon of honey to this and about ½ a teaspoon of mustard. You can adjust this a little bit depending on how sweet you like it, but I wouldn't go more than about ½ a teaspoon of mustard in this because then it starts tasting like mustard. You just want a little zing to it. You don't want to overpower it with mustard. Now once that's all stirred around, final step is to pass this through a sieve. You don't have to do that. You can just use this sauce the way it is and be done with it. But it'll have a more refined, nice taste if you take the extra step and go through a sieve. You know, you went through all this work of making it so far. You don't want to stop on the 1 yard line and not put the last little bit of work into it to perfect it. You're only gotta rub as much as you can through it, and you're gonna spend 5 or 6 minutes doing this. where you have to make some personal decisions here. You got to take a little taste of it. You got to decide, does it need some more vinegar? Does it need some more sugar? Does it need salt? What does it need? You have to adjust the seasonings at this point. I also like to add a little Tabasco at this point. A little bit of sauce down on the plate. You put your chicken in, and it looks fantastic. It tastes amazing. You would never guess that this was cooked indoors. You can even make it in the middle of winter.